Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm pleased to rise today on behalf of my PC colleagues in paying tribute to a former member of this House, Keith Brown, who passed away on July 7th of last year at the age of 88. Keith is survived by his 3 daughters, who we certainly welcome here today in the Legislature, Jewel, Janice and Rosemary. Thank you for being here with us today. He's also survived by his 3 son-in-laws, his 8 grandchildren and 7 great-grandchildren. As was mentioned, Keith was born in 1926 in the Marmor area, the son of a local cheesemaker. In 1945, he married Marjorie Wallace, and they were married almost 60 years before Marjorie passed away in 2005. And as described by his daughter Jewel, it was truly a lifelong love affair. Keith was always a family-first kind of guy and was and still is adored by his family. In 1950, Keith started his own business selling cars at a single used car lot. He successfully grew that business into multiple dealerships, eventually founding the Lift Lock Group of companies. His business operations provided employment for over 400 people in the community, and he was known, as was said, as the car king of the Kawarthas. Keith's successful car dealerships served multiple generations of customers. He never forgot the name of a customer, and it was obvious that his customers never forgot him. Keith took a hiatus from his successful business career to run for the PC party in 1959 for the government of Premier Leslie Frost, Old Man, Ontario, and was from the neighbouring riding. Keith won the election easily, and in the general election of 1963 was re-elected under the leadership of Premier John Roberts with over 50% of the vote. During his tenure as MPP, Keith was committed to bringing growth and development to the Peterborough area, thereby benefiting his entire community. He was described by his family as a true blue conservative who was dedicated to serving the people of his Peterborough riding. Keith continued to be a public figure after his days as MPP. Myself being the daughter of a longtime PC Member of Parliament Bill Scott, I remember meeting Keith at various political events and actually being nervous that I was in the presence of the legendary Keith Brown, the man with the car dealerships from Peterborough. I knew my father and my mother, Betty, always considered Keith and his beloved Marjorie to be good friends. And as much as Keith enjoyed the political life, after 2 terms he decided it was time to return to the private sector. In 1967, he then went back to being the car king of the Kawarthas. Now, we've heard from the members about the member from Peterborough purchasing his first car from Keith in 1988 and suggesting that, Jeff, the member from Peterborough, being a Liberal, maybe should get a certified check. So I have to say, so even when he was out of elected politics, Keith was still keenly aware of the financial risks associated with the Liberals in politics. Clearly an astute man ahead of his time. He was also a man who saw the humor in everything, so that he would enjoy that joke, including politics, and was always quick to employ his wit in the spirit of fun. Although Keith was no longer an elected public official, he never lost his keen interest in politics at all levels, playing various key roles in many elections and leadership campaigns over the years, including the successful campaign for mayor by his son-in-law, Darrell. Darrell is the mayor, but we knew where he got his political skills from. Keith took a great deal of pride in Darrell's success in Peterborough municipal politics. And following his passing, I was speaking with his daughter, Jewel, about some stories that she's heard about her dad. And she received a number of letters from individuals expounding on the many things that her father did for the people he represented as a politician and for the customers he served in being a caring, community-minded businessman. Many of the tributes expressed in these letters were the first time the family had heard the stories. One particular story was from a woman whose uncle had once purchased a new car from Keith, only to have it stolen a few days later. When Keith heard about it, he gave the man a new car to drive until the police located his car. That same man died of Hodgkin's in his mid-30s, leaving a widow and 2 very young daughters. Keith asked the widow to come and see him one day, and when she got there, he wrote, "Paid in full," on her husband's car loan. Stories like this only serve to reinforce the image and affection which the family has long held for their beloved patriarch. Keith was a member of the Masonic Lodge for over 50 years, was a faithful member of the Shriners, serving these fraternal organizations with his leadership and support. He was also a devoted and generous lifelong member of the Mark Street United Church, holding various positions on the Board of Stewards, Board of Trustees, and Session. He was a valued friend, advisor, and confidant to all the ministers who served the congregation over the years. In January of this year, the new Peterborough Business Hall of Fame announced that at its inaugural dinner in May, there would be a number of posthumous inductees into the hall, and not surprisingly, leading the list was Keith Brown. In announcing the criteria for consideration in the Hall of Fame, it was stated that a business person has to have displayed two definite traits: success in whatever their business endeavours were, and that they had been good to the community. And Keith Brown not only met, but exceeded these criteria, hands down. Until the time of his passing, Keith was healthy and remained very active in his community, including the political scene, and I have to say he gave me lots of advice when I would see him out at events, which is quite tremendous. As you see the generations unfold, he was still there for us. His legendary storytelling, his tremendous wit and humour, and his keen business mind were in full evidence right up until the end. He's been referred to as a pillar of the community, a fine example of a person serving his family, his community, and his customers. With the passing of Keith Brown, the province and the Peterborough area in particular lost a great man and a legend. We can only be thankful for that legacy that he left behind, and we thank the family for sharing him with us.